Imagine standing on the brink of failure, staring at a challenge so overwhelming it feels insurmountable. The walls are closing in, the path ahead is blocked, and every instinct is screaming at you to turn back. But what if, right there, in that impossible moment, you held the key to something extraordinary? What if the very thing you fear most is the answer you've been looking for all along? For centuries, philosophers, leaders, and visionaries have quietly followed a set of principles, a guide to navigating life's obstacles. These ideas, rooted in the teachings of the Stoics, have fueled some of humanity's greatest triumphs. Marcus Aurelius, Thomas Edison, Amelia Earhart. They all faced trials that could have broken them. Yet, each of them discovered the same truth: the obstacle itself is the path forward. This isn't about optimism. It's not about ignoring pain or pretending everything is fine. It's about something deeper, a strategy for turning life's hardest moments into defining victories. What if, instead of asking, "Why me?" we asked, "What can I do with this?" What if every setback became fuel? Every failure became a lesson? Every obstacle became the way? Today, we'll explore Ryan Holiday's The Obstacle is the Way, a modern framework for an ancient idea. This isn't just a book, it's a lens that reshapes how we see the world. Over the next 2 hours, we'll uncover the wisdom behind the Stoic art of facing challenges head-on. We'll see how ordinary people transformed extraordinary challenges into opportunities. And by the end, you'll be ready to do the same. So take a moment. Think about the obstacles in your life right now. Hold it in your mind, because what stands in the way just might be the way. Picture this: a Roman emperor sitting alone in his tent on the front lines of war. By day, he commands legions across battlefields. By night, he retreats into quiet reflection, not to plan the next move, but to wrestle with a question as ancient as it is personal. What do you do when life pushes you to your limits? This emperor, Marcus Aurelius, would write down a few simple words that, centuries later, would echo across time and change how countless people view their struggles. What stands in the way becomes the way. This is the foundation of Stoicism, an ancient philosophy born not in lecture halls, but in the chaos of life itself. It's not abstract theory. It's a way of thinking forged by warriors, leaders, and survivors. It teaches that life's trials are not here to break us. They are here to transform us. Ryan Holiday's The Obstacle is the Way breathes life into this philosophy, weaving together history, practical wisdom, and timeless insights. It's not a book of empty motivation or surface-level advice. It's a manual, deliberate, sharp, and unapologetic, on how to face life's challenges head-on. This isn't about avoiding pain or finding shortcuts. It's about something much harder and much more rewarding: learning how to use the challenges that block your path. Whether you're overwhelmed by fear, paralyzed by setbacks, or defeated by circumstances, this book offers a path forward. At its heart, The Obstacle is the Way is built on 3 disciplines. First, perception, the art of seeing clearly. How do you strip away fear, frustration, and noise to see situations as they truly are? Next, action, moving forward with courage and persistence. How do you tackle problems piece by piece, even when the odds feel impossible? And finally, will, an unshakable inner strength. How do you endure and thrive in the face of what cannot be changed? These aren't abstract ideas, they're tools. Practical, tested, and ready for use. Tools that have guided people like Amelia Earhart, Ulysses S. Grant, and even modern entrepreneurs. But here's the truth: this isn't just their story. It's yours too. Because whether you're standing at a crossroads or staring at a wall, the way forward is always within reach. It begins with understanding this: the obstacle isn't in your way. It is the way. How we see the world determines everything: our choices, our emotions, and ultimately, our actions. But here's the hard truth: most of us don't see the world as it is. We see it as our fears, biases, and assumptions shape it. This is where the journey begins, with perception. It's the first discipline outlined in Ryan Holiday's The Obstacle is the Way, the gateway to turning trials into triumphs. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, reminds us, our actions may be impeded, but there can be no impeding our intentions or dispositions. The mind adapts and converts to its purposes the obstacle to our acting. What stands in the way becomes the way. But how do we train the mind to adapt? How do we steady ourselves when the ground beneath us seems to crumble? The answer lies in the discipline of perception, a skill anyone can cultivate, but few take the time to master. Let's break it down. Perception is more than seeing, it's understanding. It's the ability to strip away emotion, distraction, and noise to focus on the essence of a challenge. John D. Rockefeller, for example, stood at the epicenter of financial chaos during the Panic of 1857. While others panicked, he observed. Where others saw disaster, he saw lessons. At just 16 years old, Rockefeller began shaping his perspective, training himself to remain calm under pressure. He learned to focus on what he could control and use crises as opportunities to sharpen his skills. This mindset made him one of history's greatest industrialists. His secret? A disciplined mind that turned obstacles into opportunities. There's a truth we often forget. No one can control how we think. Only we can. Take Reuben Hurricanes Carter, the boxer wrongfully imprisoned for nearly 20 years. Instead of letting anger consume him, Carter chose to focus on what he could control, his mind, his attitude, and his time. In his cell, he read, studied, and prepared for the moment he could prove his innocence. He refused to let his captors take his dignity or his sense of purpose. Carter's story is a reminder. Our power lies in our choices, even when it feels like everything else has been taken from us. Pressure, chaos, unexpected setbacks. These moments define us. For Ulysses S. Grant, the general who led the Union Army to victory during the Civil War, nerve was everything. When a cannon exploded nearby or a battlefield turned to carnage, Grant remained composed. This wasn't natural, it was practiced. Grant understood that panic solves nothing. He taught himself to stay calm, even in the most terrifying moments. Because when the mind is steady, the path forward becomes clear. When Apollo astronauts trained for space missions, NASA drilled one lesson into them above all. Don't panic. Emotional overreactions in space could lead to disaster. Down here, on Earth, we face a similar truth. Emotions can cloud judgment and derail progress. Stoicism teaches us to regulate emotions, not suppress them. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The key is to feel emotions without letting them control you. It's a skill anyone can build with practice. The samurai warrior Miyamoto Musashi once wrote that the observing eye sees clearly, while the perceiving eye is clouded by interpretation. Objectivity requires us to step back and ask, what's really happening here? By removing personal biases and stripping away unnecessary emotion, we can see challenges for what they are, not insurmountable obstacles, but problems to be solved. This perspective is a powerful tool for making better decisions and staying focused. When the Greek general Pericles faced a terrified crew during a solar eclipse, he didn't panic. Instead, he held his cloak over a man's face and asked, "Are you scared of this?" The man answered no. "Then why fear the eclipse?" Pericles replied. This simple shift in perspective dissolved fear. The way we frame challenges matters. If we view obstacles as threats, they will paralyze us. But if we see them as opportunities to test our strength, they empower us. Perspective changes everything. Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher, reminds us to separate what we can control from what we cannot. Our emotions, decisions, and actions? Those are ours to command. The opinions of others, external events, and circumstances? Those are beyond us. By focusing on what's within our power, we conserve energy for meaningful action. This shift is liberating. It clears away distractions and helps us move forward with purpose. The founders of some of history's greatest companies, from Walt Disney to Microsoft, built their dreams during economic crises. How? By focusing on what they could do now. They didn't waste energy worrying about the big picture or what the future might hold. They stayed present, solving the problems in front of them, one step at a time. Einstein once said, "We cannot solve problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." Innovation often begins with questioning assumptions. Rockefeller didn't follow the herd. He studied its mistakes. Amelia Earhart challenged the belief that aviation was a man's world. Thinking differently requires courage, but it's essential for turning challenges into stepping stones. Benjamin Franklin wrote, "The things that hurt instruct. Pain, failure, and setbacks are life's greatest teachers, if we're willing to learn from them." Every obstacle contains a hidden opportunity. The key is to ask, what can this teach me? How can this make me stronger? This mindset transforms roadblocks into building blocks. Perception isn't enough on its own. It must lead to action. Stoicism teaches that clarity of thought prepares us for decisive steps forward. When we see obstacles objectively and align our focus with what we can control, we're ready to move. Vision alone changes nothing. Clarity of thought, no matter how profound, remains powerless unless it is followed by action. A step forward, no matter how small, is the bridge between what could be and what will be. But taking action is rarely easy. Obstacles don't just disappear because we decide to move toward them. They resist. They demand persistence, creativity, and an unshakable commitment to keep moving when everything around you urges you to stop. Action requires courage, but above all, it requires discipline. Ryan Holiday's The Obstacle is the Way reminds us that action isn't about bold leaps or grand gestures. It's about progress, incremental, steady, and deliberate. It's about knowing how to move when the path forward is uncertain and adapting when plans fail. This is the second discipline, action. Let's explore how it works. Action is a skill, a methodical approach to solving problems that transcends panic and chaos. It's a commitment to movement, guided by purpose and grounded in persistence. Action turns obstacles into opportunities through thoughtful strategy and relentless execution. Take Ulysses S. Grant, the Union general during the Civil War. Time and again, he faced overwhelming challenges, superior enemy positions, relentless attacks, and dwindling resources. Yet, Grant moved forward, not recklessly, but deliberately. When one plan failed, he adjusted. When progress slowed, he persisted. For Grant, the key to victory was simple. Keep moving, no matter how small the step. Action begins with the simplest step, movement. Waiting for perfect conditions or flawless plans leads to paralysis. As Grant once said, "Whatever must be done, I'll do it." The power of action lies in starting. Start where you are, with what you have. Because no matter how small the effort, it sets momentum into motion. Obstacles rarely crumble on the first attempt. They test your resolve, forcing you to return again and again. During the Civil War, Grant's strategy relied on wearing down his enemy, not through brilliance, but through persistence. Every failed attempt brought him closer to the next opportunity. Persistence doesn't mean brute force. It means learning, adjusting, and pressing forward with unrelenting determination. Obstacles yield to those who refuse to stop. Action isn't static. It's a process of trial and error, a constant cycle of trying, failing, and refining. Thomas Edison famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Iteration is about progress, not perfection. Each attempt, no matter how small, builds knowledge and opens new possibilities. Success, more often than not, is the result of repeated failure met with unwavering action. In moments of overwhelming challenge, the big picture can paralyze us. Grant avoided this trap by focusing on what he called the process, breaking large, complex problems into manageable pieces. By focusing on the next step rather than the entire journey, you eliminate distractions and maintain control. The process creates progress, no matter how daunting the task may seem. Sometimes, the obstacle isn't a grand challenge, but the demand for consistent effort. As Holiday writes, "Dear job, do it right." Great outcomes are built on the foundation of small, daily victories. Attention to detail, a focus on quality, and commitment to the task at hand transform ordinary work into extraordinary results. There's no single path to success. Sometimes, unconventional methods yield the best results. Grant understood this well. He often abandoned traditional military strategies, favoring bold, creative approaches that his enemies didn't anticipate. What works may not always align with expectations, but if it achieves the goal, it's worth pursuing. Success isn't about following rules, it's about achieving outcomes. Direct confrontation isn't always the best strategy. When the front door is blocked, look for side entrances. Grant often used the flank attack, outmaneuvering his enemies by approaching from unexpected angles. This principle applies far beyond the battlefield. When one route is closed, think creatively. Obstacles often contain hidden vulnerabilities waiting to be exploited. Sometimes, the best way to defeat an obstacle is to turn it into an advantage. A ship sailing into strong winds can adjust its sails to harness that very force. In the same way, obstacles often contain the seeds of their resolution. Ask yourself, how can this challenge be turned to my benefit? Every difficulty holds potential energy waiting to be transformed into forward motion. Adversity provokes strong emotions, anger, frustration, despair. Left unchecked, these emotions can consume you. But when harnessed, they become a powerful force. Grant channeled his frustrations into relentless focus. He didn't waste time lamenting losses or setbacks. He used that energy to drive action. Channeling energy requires discipline, but it transforms emotional turmoil into a source of strength. Sometimes, the best defense is a strong offense. Rather than waiting for obstacles to overwhelm you, take bold, decisive action. Grant's campaigns were marked by his refusal to retreat. Even in the face of setbacks, he pressed forward, forcing his enemies to react to him. Action isn't about waiting for the right moment. It's about creating it. Not all actions lead to success. Some plans fail. Some efforts fall short. But true resilience lies in preparing for these moments, not with despair, but with resolve. As Holiday writes, you will act, and there will be results. They may not be the results you expected. Accept that. Each failure is a lesson. Each setback is a step closer to success. Action is the ultimate answer to adversity. It's not glamorous, and it's not always easy. But it's the only way forward. One step at a time, one task at a time, one decision at a time. Obstacles will test your resolve, but with persistence, creativity, and discipline, they become stepping stones to something greater. Now, with the power of action, the path begins to clear. What stands in the way becomes the way. Imagine being stripped of everything you hold dear, your freedom, your possessions, your future. Imagine standing in the shadow of insurmountable hardship, where every day demands strength you're not sure you have. How do you endure? How do you press on when every instinct tells you to give up? This is the realm of will. It's the final and most profound discipline in Ryan Holiday's The Obstacle is the Way, where perception shapes how you see the world and action determines what you do about it, will govern something far deeper. How you endure when there seems to be nothing left to give. Will is quiet. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand attention. But it is relentless. It's the internal discipline that allows you to face adversity with courage and grace. It's the fortress within, the place you retreat to when all else fails. And it begins with the choice to stand firm, no matter what comes. Will isn't about force or brute strength. It's about resilience. It's the ability to keep going, even when the road is long and uncertain. It's about finding strength in the face of pain and clarity in the midst of chaos. Will is the discipline that underpins every great achievement. Without it, action falters and perception crumbles. But with it, even the most daunting obstacles become manageable. Will is not what you show the world. It's what sustains you in your darkest hours. Imagine a fortress within you, unshaken by external storms. The Stoics called this the inner citadel, a place of calm, strength, and purpose that no hardship can breach. Building this fortress requires daily effort. It means cultivating habits that strengthen your character, from meditation to reflection to deliberate practice. Each small act of discipline adds a stone to your citadel, preparing you for the trials to come. Because the stronger the foundation within, the less the outside world can shake you. Optimism has its place, but will demand something more: preparation. The Stoics practiced what they called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. They visualized the worst that could happen, not to dwell on it, but to prepare for it. Reuben "Hurricane" Carter, wrongfully imprisoned for nearly 2 decades, understood this well. He didn't ignore the reality of his situation. He faced it head-on. By accepting the hardships before him, he freed himself from fear. Anticipation turns uncertainty into clarity, allowing you to respond with strength instead of panic. Some battles cannot be won. Some situations cannot be changed. Will is not about resisting the inevitable. It's about accepting it with grace. This is the art of acquiescence, not surrender, but alignment with reality. Carter refused to waste energy fighting the walls that held him. Instead, he focused inward, mastering his mind and building his resolve. By accepting what he could not change, he reclaimed the freedom to direct his energy where it mattered most. There's a radical Stoic concept at the heart of will, amor fati, love of fate. It's the idea that we don't just accept what happens to us, we embrace it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Love only what happens, what was destined." No greater harmony. This mindset transforms hardship into opportunity. Every setback, every failure, becomes fuel for growth. It's not about wishing for an easier life, but finding joy and purpose in the life you have. Will is not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's the ability to endure, to keep moving forward, even when progress feels impossible. Perseverance isn't flashy, but it's the foundation of every great achievement. Carter's story is a testament to this truth. For 19 years, he fought for his innocence. But he didn't let bitterness consume him. He focused on the process, day by day, and emerged not just free, but stronger. Will is often strengthened by purpose. When your actions serve something greater than your desires, you find reserves of strength you didn't know you had. Carter didn't just fight for his freedom. He became a symbol of resilience and justice. When your struggle connects to a higher purpose, it transcends the personal and becomes a force for change. Life is fragile. The Stoics understood this deeply and encouraged daily reflection on mortality. Far from being morbid, this practice sharpens your focus and strengthens your will. When you confront the inevitability of death, trivial fears lose their power. You begin to act with urgency and clarity, knowing that every moment is an opportunity to grow and contribute. Will requires the humility to begin anew. Sometimes, no matter how hard you fight, you'll fail. But failure is not the end. It's a chance to regroup, learn, and try again. As Holiday writes, prepare for none of it to work. This mindset frees you from the fear of failure, replacing it with the resolve to keep moving forward. Because will is not about never falling, it's about always getting back up. Will is the quiet strength that carries you through life's greatest challenges. It's the discipline to endure, the courage to accept, and the grace to persevere. When action falters and perception wavers, will sustain you. It reminds you that no obstacle is permanent and no hardship is meaningless. Because what stands in the way becomes the way. Everyone faces moments when the weight of life feels unbearable. Maybe it's a failed business, a broken relationship, or a dream that seems just out of reach. These struggles are universal. But what we often fail to see is the quiet gift they carry, the chance to rise above, to grow, to turn pain into power. Let me share a story that might seem familiar to you. There was a time in my own life when I felt completely stuck. I was juggling too much: work, family, my ambitions, and it seemed like I was failing on every front. Every time I took a step forward, life threw me 2 steps back. One evening, I sat down, exhausted, ready to give up. But then I remembered something I had read. What stands in the way becomes the way. It wasn't some magical solution, but it shifted my perspective. Instead of focusing on what was wrong, I began to ask, What can I learn from this? How can I use this moment to rebuild? Slowly, things started to change, not because the problems disappeared, but because I started to see them differently. The obstacles didn't go away, but they became opportunities to grow. That moment wasn't just a turning point. It was a reminder of the power of resilience. Now, consider this parable from ancient times. A king, frustrated by the complacency of his people, devised a simple test. He placed a massive boulder in the middle of the main road leading into the city, blocking the path. Then he hid nearby to watch. Throughout the day, merchants, noblemen, and commoners approached the obstacle. Some cursed the king for not maintaining the roads. Others turned back, frustrated by the inconvenience. Not a single person attempted to move the rock. Finally, as evening fell, a lone peasant arrived, carrying a bundle of supplies. Seeing the boulder, he set down his load and strained to push it aside. It wouldn't budge. Undeterred, he searched the nearby woods, found a sturdy branch, and used it as a lever to dislodge the rock. Underneath the boulder, he found a purse filled with gold and a note from the king. The obstacle in the path becomes the path. Never forget, within every obstacle is an opportunity to improve our condition. The king's lesson is as true today as it was then. What we see as barriers are often gateways to something greater, but only if we are willing to act. Think of Thomas Edison. When his laboratory burned to the ground in 1914, destroying years of research and countless prototypes, most people would have been devastated. Edison? He stood there, watching the flames, and said to his son, "Go get your mother. She'll never see another fire like this." The very next morning, Edison was back to work. He used the destruction as a chance to start fresh, refining his processes and creating some of his greatest inventions in the years that followed. For Edison, the fire wasn't the end, it was a spark. During the civil rights movement, leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. faced obstacles that seemed insurmountable, entrenched systems of oppression, threats to their lives, even imprisonment. But they didn't stop. They turned every roadblock into a rallying point, using adversity to galvanize change. Their persistence reminds us that obstacles are not just personal. Sometimes they are part of a larger story, a chance to leave the world better than we found it. When you hear these stories, it's tempting to think these people are extraordinary, that their strength is out of reach for the rest of us. But here's the truth. Their resilience didn't come from some superhuman power. It came from seeing obstacles differently, from acting when it was easier to quit. And that's something we all can do. Maybe it's as simple as asking yourself, what's one small step I can take today? Maybe it's finding the courage to fail and try again. Or maybe it's realizing that the challenges in front of you are shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more capable than you ever imagined. Because here's the thing, every great story, every remarkable achievement began with someone facing an obstacle. The question isn't whether you'll encounter challenges, it's what you'll do when you do. Will you turn away, or will you push forward, knowing that what stands in the way is not the end of the road, but the beginning of a new path? Every great transformation begins not with grand gestures, but with quiet clarity. The moment you pause, step back, and ask, what's really standing in my way? This is the turning point, the instant where the chaos surrounding a problem gives way to understanding. But understanding alone won't move mountains. The real question is, what do you do with it? How do you take the timeless wisdom of perception, action, and will and apply it to the struggles you face every day? Let's break it down, step by step. The first step is seeing the obstacle for what it truly is, not what you fear it to be, not what others say it is, but what it actually is. This means cutting through the noise. Take a moment to ask yourself, what is the root of this problem? Not the symptoms or the distractions, but the core challenge. Maybe it's a lack of resources. Maybe it's fear of failure. Maybe it's the belief that you're not good enough. Whatever it is, name it. Define it. Write it down. Clarity is power. Once you identify the obstacle clearly, you begin to take away its power to overwhelm you. It's no longer an abstract fear. It's a tangible problem waiting for a solution. Obstacles often trigger emotional reactions, anger, frustration, fear. These emotions cloud your judgment, distorting how you see the situation. But what if you could step back and view the problem with complete detachment? Picture yourself as an observer, looking at the challenge from the outside. Ask yourself, what's actually happening here? What can I control, and what's beyond my control? This is where the discipline of perception becomes your greatest ally. By stripping away emotion, you see the obstacle for what it truly is, a challenge. Yes, but also an opportunity to test your resolve. This isn't easy, but it's necessary. Because when you're calm, you're capable. And when you're capable, you're unstoppable. It's tempting to think that overcoming obstacles requires massive effort, a single, heroic leap. But the truth is far simpler. Progress is made through small, consistent actions. Ask yourself, what's the next step I can take right now? Not tomorrow, not next week, but now. Maybe it's making a phone call. Maybe it's drafting a plan. Maybe it's as simple as taking a deep breath and deciding to try again. These small actions, repeated over time, build momentum. And momentum is what turns impossible challenges into achievable goals. Remember, Edison didn't invent the light bulb in a day. Grant didn't win the Civil War in a single battle. They moved forward, step by step, until success was inevitable. Here's a hard truth. Many of the things we worry about are completely beyond our control. The opinions of others, the unexpected setbacks, the twists and turns of fate. These are distractions, nothing more. The Stoics taught that true power lies in focusing on what you can control, your thoughts, your actions, and your decisions. Everything else? Let it go. When you shift your energy away from the uncontrollable, you free yourself to act with purpose. You stop wasting time and start building solutions. Ask yourself, what can I change right now? What's one thing I can improve today? This shift in focus is transformative. It takes you from feeling powerless to realizing the incredible potential of what's within your grasp. These steps aren't complicated. They don't require talent, privilege, or luck. But they do require discipline. And that's the beauty of them. They're universal. Anyone, anywhere can apply these lessons to their own life. So, think about the obstacle in front of you right now. Name it. Understand it. Strip away the emotion. Then, take one small step toward resolving it. And when you've done that, take another. And another. This is how the greatest challenges are overcome. Not through magic or miracles, but through clarity, calm, and relentless forward motion. What stands in the way becomes the way. All you have to do is take the first step. We've covered a lot today. Stories of resilience, lessons from history, and practical tools to face life's toughest challenges. But now it's your turn. Take a moment and think, what's one obstacle standing in your way right now? Is it something at work? A personal goal? Maybe a relationship that feels stuck? Whatever it is, ask yourself, what's the real challenge here? How can I separate emotion from the situation? What's one small step I can take today to move forward? I want to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments. What's the challenge you're facing, and how are you planning to approach it differently after watching this video? Your story could inspire someone else to take that first step. If this video sparked a new way of thinking or gave you tools you can use, imagine what else we have in store for you. This channel is all about helping you see the opportunities hidden within life's obstacles, one idea at a time. So, if you're ready to take on life's challenges with a fresh perspective and practical wisdom, hit that subscribe button and join us on this journey. And if you found value here, share it with someone who could use these lessons in their own life. Remember, every challenge is a chance to grow. What stands in the way becomes the way, one step at a time. Let's tackle it together. As we come to the end, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've explored today. It all begins with perception, the way we see the challenges before us. By stripping away emotion and bias, we uncover the truth. Obstacles aren't just barriers, they're opportunities waiting to be seized. Next comes action. It's not about grand gestures or perfect plans. It's about taking small, consistent steps forward, even when the path is unclear. Because progress, no matter how slow, is what turns obstacles into stepping stones. And finally, this is the quiet strength that sustains us. The ability to endure, to persevere, to embrace what cannot be changed, and to find meaning in adversity. Will is the discipline that carries us when perception falters and action seems impossible. Together, these three principles, perception, action, and will, form a timeless guide for anyone feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or uncertain about what's next. This book isn't just for philosophers, CEOs, or history's great leaders. It's for you. It's for anyone who's ever faced a challenge and thought, I don't know if I can do this. Maybe you're navigating a career setback, a personal struggle, or simply trying to find direction. Whatever you're facing, the lessons from the obstacle is the way are a reminder that no challenge is insurmountable. The tools are here. The path is clear. All you have to do is take the first step. Now that we've walked through the powerful lessons of the obstacle is the way, the next step is yours. This video is just the beginning, a glimpse into the wisdom Ryan Holiday has laid out in this transformative book. If these ideas have resonated with you, I encourage you to go deeper. Pick up your copy of The Obstacle is the Way today. Read it, reflect on it, and let its lessons shape the way you approach life's challenges. Whether it's a small hurdle or a life-altering trial, this book will equip you to face it with strength, clarity, and purpose. And as you step into your own story, remember, what stands in the way is not the end, it's the beginning. What blocks your path becomes the very thing that propels you forward. So, take the wisdom, take the tools, and take that first step. Because what stands in the way becomes the way.